Morning, everybody. It is 8:46 a.m. Had a late start today. Reason being, my computer crashed, and then I did a rollover with my contracts. So this Friday is going to be quad witching. So futures contracts are going to roll over. I'm just preemptively going to the next contract. Right now, that a lot of times causes some squirrely movement in futures, which is awesome. But people are rolling over their positions in futures. So you're having volume split between two contracts. As the week goes on, more volume will come into the current contract, which is um, the June contract. So that's what I did this morning. So I had to do a bunch of charting and stuff like that, and I want to be prepared for everybody here to give you guys the current levels that will coincide with my scenarios and everything like that. Thinkorswim has already also pushed their futures over. So sometimes I do this a little later in the week, but usually around Tuesday, the volume starts coming more into this contract than the previous contract. Now, of course, crude is down this morning, 3.73%, $95 a barrel. Okay. Crude is very important to our markets right now. I talked about this on Friday, and I actually fought that. Even though when I was live on Friday, I was saying, ooh, look at that. Crude was down and now it's up. So the markets are inversely correlated to crude. Hence, crude down 3.75, the market is up 1%. Okay? Like I said, I keep saying this war, whatever you want to call it, it's just going to be priced in. Eventually, it's going to be in the past. Okay, markets move down. All right, we have some lower prices. Okay, in the overnight. So we did go down, but then put a big stake in the ground. Okay. So this week we do have FOMC on Wednesday. FOMC on Wednesday. Look at that. Fed Powell speaking on Saturday. Just seen that. All right. So without further ado, let's get right into it. Welcome to my channel. My name is Steven Gonzalez. I use market profile and volume profile to find structure in the markets along with supply and demand. Gathering exposure levels of the most traded price of the year, the month, the week, and the previous day. That is my edge. All right. Now every morning when that market opens, I use my market internals. All right. Anchor VWAPs, little ICT thrown in there, and my weekly expected move. That reminds me, I have to add that to my weekly expected move. I have to add that to the channel. I ran it, so that will be available for everyone once I put that in there. Right? You'll see that updated right after my stream. Okay. Now, hopefully, join me every morning. Give you the market story, the economic calendar, the market news, technical analysis, and the ES and Nasdaq long and short trade scenarios towards the end of my stream. Okay. Want more in-depth coverage? You're going to go join my Discord. That's Confluence Trading. Go to my YouTube homepage, click on the link, and sign up. What are you waiting for? Let me be your indicator. Now, been trying to do every weekend. I try to do updates, some more things in my community. Okay, we have the daily receipts going on, where I give my pre-market take, and you can see that time-stamped with the ticks and the internals, all that stuff, sector rotations, give me my bias, and you can see every day if my scenarios matched up with the end of the day. Now, one thing that's been missing from that has been my pre-market scenarios via actually like text, because I've been nailing those, but I finally figured out a workflow over the weekend where I can provide that in text form, also compare that every day, because that's very important. I pride myself a lot in my pre-market scenarios, and they usually play out. They did again on Friday. It's just that it happened with no setup. Hit 67.03s in ES, held support, ripped up, broke the previous day's highs, and that was the surge that I expected. However, I did not expect crude to go up that much intraday, and that helped the markets push a little lower. Okay. So that's a new thing I'm going to add today, brand new. You'll see my text pre-market scenarios. Let's see how that goes today. All right, there's always stuff to iron out, but that's exciting because I always wanted to put that in a text format, because I usually put them in my YouTube links, but you can't really see it This time you'll see it. Okay? Be a good thing for me to see, everyone else to see. All right, let's get right into futures watch list here. All right, we have Ethereum up 8.47%. Wow. Okay, Bitcoin up 3.65%. Is 60,000 the bottom? Who knows? Russell's up 1.29%. I have to think the 10-year yield's lower if that's happening. Nasdaq's up 1.15. ES up 0.97. Dow's up 0.81. 30-year bonds are being bought, which means yield should go lower. Dollar's down. Gold is down 0.84. 10-year yield is down 1.12%. Silver is down 1.39. Crude is down almost 4%. 4%. This is going to propel our markets. Remember, inversely correlated. VIX is down 8%. We're down to a 25 VIX. All right, moving on. Mag 7 Plus. Coinbase, the Bitcoin proxy, up 3.73%. Meta is about to lay off people from AI. They are getting a boost from that. Nvidia is up almost 2%. Tesla's up 1.38. Broadcom's up 1.17. AMD's up 1.10. Okay? Nothing is down. The only laggard is Netflix. And it's up. Okay? Top sectors. Leaders, Caterpillar, up 1.44. GEV Vernova, my baby, it's up 1.34. Oracle's up 1.30. The laggards here are the mining and Exxon. Okay, sectors. Semiconductors is up almost 2%. Remember, that's a risk-on market, folks. Technology is up almost 1.40. Communications is up 0.95. Discretionary is up 0.86. Okay, everything is up. Nothing is down. Okay, this is a reflexive rally. It was about to happen. Okay, this was just about to happen. All right. Now, moving on to the economic calendar now. All right, today we have New York Empire State Manufacturing already came out. That doesn't move markets. 9:15 industrial, that doesn't move markets either. NHAB Housing Market Index at 10 a.m. I mean, I'll be wary about it. I'll be aware about it. Aware, I meant to say. All right, but I don't think that usually doesn't move markets. Okay. Now remember, we have FOMC on Wednesday. Okay, that's the big thing for this week. Let's look at our Trump tracker here. Oh, what is going on there? That is interesting. Why is that like that, huh? Interesting. Why is that way? Do I have to refresh it like this? Interesting. That site's down, I guess. All right, let's go to Financial Juice. Let's see here. Is Trump's interview closed press 2:30? Trump and Vice President Vance. Let's see. It's at 3:30. I don't really see anything right now. Okay. All right. So I see some news here. Chinese trade negotiator Li on talks with U.S. talked about possible extension of tariff suspensions, other matters. Alrighty. Let's see if we have some stock here. Some stock news here. Let's see if there's a summary for us. Meta, I talked about the layoffs. Just trying to see if there's any other thing. Nope. We're going to move on to some news here. Fed to present an updated outlook. Looking through the fog of war. Meta planning sweeping layoffs, like I spoke. Looks like U.S. China to seek Paris talks on managed trade, agriculture deals for Xi and Trump summit. Warner Brothers Oscar triumph, a bittersweet moment as Paramount deal looms. Warner Brothers emerged as the biggest winner at the Academy Awards on Sunday, though the mood was clouded by its pending $110 billion sale to Paramount Skynet's, a deal reshaping Hollywood studio landscape. Let's see here. Let's just see what it says here. U.S. stock index futures edge higher with Meta shares leading gains at the report that the tech giant is preparing sweeping AI-related layoffs. Although elevated crude prices amid the escalating, well, that is old news now because crude is down. I'm sorry. I don't think there's going to be anything here that's going to be that's going to be earth-shattering because all the markets are up. That means we can move on. Okay, let's just go moving on. We're going to go right into our market internals from Friday. which started out positive, right? And then fell, and then there was a barcode for a while. Okay, barcode for a while, and these numbers aren't super bearish, but however, you have to understand they were up and then they went negative, right? Nothing here too earth-shattering at all. Okay, that's why we barcode it, right? I didn't think we'd hit the overnight lows, but we winded up doing that. But like I said, the market wasn't very super weak. It was crude, really. That was just rising. It went from negative to positive. That put some weight on the markets. That put some weight on the markets. Okay, so bearish internals, they were definitely bearish. Everything up, down 1%. It's going to be hard for the market to go up, but the overall market wasn't super weak, so it was going to be hard for the market to just fall apart. That's your market internals. All right, let's move on to daily charts now. Alrighty, let's look at these daily charts. Okay, so SPY had a very bearish close, right? Close right at the swing low, almost hitting the 200-day moving average. 658 did not hit it though. Did not hit it though. Okay. So what we did, look what we did. So we opened, pushed right up to where the prior week's close. Also swept the previous day's highs. Everybody sold that. Look, and made new weekly lows. So in the opening, we went back into the previous week's range, but then failed. Right? We were in a downtrend. We did actually break the downtrend, but then close back inside it. That probably was a little bit of, that was a pretty bearish candle. Okay. Now, where are we now? 668. Look at where we are. Jeez Louise. All the way up here. $6 from the close. That is a mighty. Now, you're going to see the new contract here for the ES futures. ESM 26. Okay. So, there's last week's lows. There we are right now. Okay. Year-to-date anchored VWAP. Not sure how much I can put weight into this one because of Thinkorswim's thing. So I don't think I'm going to use that too much unless it lines up with what else I have. Okay. So we're still inside the whole session of Friday. So we have to see. You should sweep this low. Expected move would probably be up to here. Okay, which would be, the high would be 67.8725. Okay, we have to see. You can see right here what we did. Now, Qs. Remember, Qs had this big consolidation. And remember, I was saying money was flowing into tech. Okay, almost hit the 200-day moving average, but you didn't. 591. There's the previous week's lows, previous month's lows. So the Qs held it together. It never really broke apart. Okay? And look what we did. We opened up right here at the prior week's close, pushed all the way up. Not even to the previous day's highs. And then fell apart. Back to the previous month's lows. Okay, where are we now? 600. We're all the way back here. Okay? 600. Nice psychological level of 600. You're kind of in the middle, almost in the middle of this garbage balance. Man, that is not a great location. Let's look at futures. This just shows the futures, right? So look, swept the lows. That's what I'm saying. The expected move, what I would expect, would be going up to 25017s, right up here. Okay. You swept those lows. Crude is going down. All right, it's giving the fuel from the market. Now look at that range. The middle of this balance is here. Right, got a couple daily supply zones here. So this is not going to be easy to cut through it. All right, but like I said, I would expect higher prices today. Okay, I would expect higher prices today. All right. Now, we're going to go right into those hourly charts. Let's do it. All right, hourly charts here. All right, let's get my marker out. Okay, so let's look at this together. Okay, so on Friday, we broke the downtrend here. We shifted the downtrend. But then, unfortunately, and we even closed up here. That next candle, woo, closed down here. Probably was a, I mean, not probably, it was a bearish sign, right, with crude going up. So I had some shots here to go short. I scalped a couple, but I got out break even. But at the end of the day, crude was just too heavy on the markets. Okay. Now, overnights, you see we dropped down here, right? Into demand. Pushed out, right? Had one pullback, and then boom. Okay. Right into this bearish FEG. Guess what the new price is we need to look at? 67.50. That's the most traded price of the rolling week. Not a shocker. We're slowing down here. Also, what is that? Yeah. All right. In supply as well. Look at that daily candle. Wow. Strong. Look at the 4 hour. Strong. Like I said, I would expect that you have to take out the 67.50s. Really hold the 67.50s to try to tap Friday's highs. You also have an unfilled gap. Okay? I have to adjust that little gap there. Okay? It's an unfilled gap still there. Do we take that out? I don't know. Okay? Now, as far as swing highs, we don't really have a swing high. You have to take this out. That was the one we broke the downtrend. So, the market's very efficient. Look what it did. Came right into here and took out the poor structure of this move. So I expect a pullback probably somewhere in here. Maybe you get it right to here around the 67.20s to give you a shot to go higher. Okay, moving on to the NASDAQ. Okay, NASDAQ, look where it is. No shock there. Okay, no shock there. Now this is a big 1 hour supply zone. I'm not a fan of it being this big, but I guess I got to put this on my chart. Okay, let me just put it right there. I'm not a fan. That's a really big 1 hour, but all right. So if we're looking at the NASDAQ, look where we're at. The new level to look at is 2488, 24880s. It's the most traded price of the rolling week. No shock again. The market is stopping there. I'm telling you, that's why I put these levels on my chart. Okay? Now, same thing. Look, very efficient market. Took this little poor structure right there, cleaned it up. Cleaned it up. Okay? Now, monthly date anchor VWAPs here, 250s. Okay? Now, like I said, it might need to pull back into the 248s. Deeper to 24750. As long as you hold that, let's see if we can tap Friday's highs. Friday's highs also coincides with a gap fill above us. Also coincides with the most traded price of the current year, which is around 250 and a half. Okay? Let's see what happens. I'm going to be watching crude, right? But this is definitely bullish for the markets. There's nothing bearish about this. A nice sweep, right? And now we have this as a target. Friday's highs, gap fill. Okay? That's your hourlies. Now we're going to move on to the market profile, the volume profile. All right, let's look at our ES. And again, this is the market profile, volume profile. Pretty simple today. Pretty simple. Okay, remember, right into the most traded price of the week. That's your 67.53, 67.50s. You can round it off. Okay. Now, you know my edge here. Anybody been watching me? There's an edge that I'm seeing that's very important. That could line up with my scenarios. Okay. Here is a very important part. All right, and we're going to start to get right now into the long and short trade scenarios in the ES futures. All right, so let's put that graphic up here. Okay. So the first thing we're going to talk about is longs. And before we talk about that, I want to talk about one thing that I like to see. Now, this market is 100% net long off the open. Okay? So, opened here, that's the only short activity. In the whole overnight session, everybody's long. What does that mean? And we're at the top of the session. That generally means the market is going to pull back, okay, because weak hands are in the overnight session and you're hitting the most traded price and supply, okay, holding the most traded price of the week, the 65.53s, and a supply zone. So most likely you're going to get a pullback, okay, to buy. All right, so let's talk about the long scenario. Okay, so right now market's pushing right into 67.53, most traded price of the week. What I would hope to happen is some type of little sweepy that fails and you get a nice pullback into the 67.20 and below area into this demand zone. You also have the most traded price of Friday, which is 67.08. Could cause support. If you get a bounce and you get a higher low, you're going to target the overnight highs around the 67.54. Okay. The bonus is if you break, retest the 65.53s and try to fill that gap as well as Friday's highs. Friday's highs is around 67.87 and the gap fill will be around 6,800. Okay. That's what I'm looking for. Now, if the market's super strong, we could see the overnight highs, right, stay there, push up, pull back to 67.53s, which is the most traded price of the week, and then you can get your long there. I hope I get the pullback first. Okay? Now, if we're going to talk about short scenarios in the ES, okay, now we just inverse it. All right, so if you want to be short, take advantage of the 100% net long inventory. Okay, right now we're at overnight highs, right? Like I said, that's the edge. So if you push up into this supply and you sweep the 67.53s, but then come back under it, retest it, put in a lower high, ride that puppy down to about 67.20 or 67.08. Okay, now if you break around the 6,700 swing low and start the hold there, then you can attack the overnight lows. Okay. Not sure if I'm interested in that or not. I have to see what the market shows me. But that is your scenarios for the ES. Let's move on. Let's go to NASDAQ. NQ. Okay. Here's our NQ. Now, same thing. Okay, let's break out the session. We are 100% net long. Remember, that is my edge. I know that everybody's long in the overnight. Okay, so let's get right into scenarios for the NASDAQ futures, the NQ. Okay, we're going to start off with the long scenario. Remember, it's beautiful right now because the markets are in sync with each other. Okay, so the 2488 zeros 24880 is the most traded price of the week. That's where the market is having problems right now. It's getting resistance. We're also 100% net long inventory. So like I said, I expect a pullback. So if you get the pullback in this long scenario, let's say you fail at the 24880s and you pull back into this demand, okay? 248 is the start of this demand zone. Anywhere in this demand zone all the way to 247s is a buyable pullback. If you get a lower high, higher low, if you get a higher low here and the market internals are pretty bullish, ride that puppy up back to 24880s. If you can break and find acceptance above the 24880s and hold it, that's where you tag Friday's highs. All right, there you're going to try to tag Friday's highs, and 25050 is the most traded price of the current year. I'm not sure if we can get through that on this time, okay? Honestly, the second one is just like the ES. If the market holds the overnight highs, opens up and has an open drive higher, but then pulls back to the 24880, the most traded price of the week, that could be a long, targeting Friday's highs and the most traded price of the current year. I don't like anything under 247s. Okay? Now, shorts, same thing. Inverse of my first long. So, again, 24880, most traded price of the week. If we fail here, remember 100% net long inventory. If we fail here, I expect the market to pull back into 248s all the way down to 247s. Okay? That's an expectation based on my experience of seeing 100% net long inventory. Okay? I don't know how much deeper you get than that. All right? Now, if you do break the 247s, you can roll all the way down and possibly hit the overnight lows. Like I said, I don't know what's going to drive the market, but you always have to keep that in mind. Okay? I'm not really interested in anything like that. And honestly, I'm more biased long. However, this is very viable because of that overnight inventory. Okay? So that wraps up scenarios in the NASDAQ and the ES futures. Okay? Now, that will be it for me. Smash that like button if you enjoy that analysis. Okay? Now, as always, hopefully you guys join me every morning. Give you the market story, the market news, the economic calendar, technical analysis, and I just gave you the long and short trade scenarios in the NASDAQ and the ES futures. Okay? Now, if you want more in-depth coverage, you're going to join my Discord, Confluence Trading. Go to my YouTube homepage, click on the link, and sign up. What are you waiting for? Let me be your indicator. Now, everybody, hope you have a great day. Okay? Hopefully I see you in my Discord. If I don't see you in my Discord, I'll see you guys tomorrow morning. Okay? Remember, no trade to trade. Hope everybody has a green day. And I'll see everybody in my Discord or tomorrow morning.